Greetings everyone, this is Yaohuh, and today I'm going to be talking about Israeli languages and dialects. Okay, so in order to understand some of the things I'm going to be talking about in this presentation, here are a list of terms that you'll want to kind of keep handy. I've placed these terms in the original pronunciations that exist within the Middle East, within Israeli language, as well as Israeli culture. So if you go back to my video I did, episode 19, there's an explanation of some of these words and how they kind of fit in to the Israeli national structure or society. The name of the Israeli national language, Ivrit, is derived from a group of people who were known as the Ivrim. The Ivrim are made up of a group of descendants from a man by the name of Ever. Ever was one of the descendants of Shem. Later on, through this particular family group, you have an ancestor of the Israeli people named Avraham, and it was during his time and before that the Ivrit language existed and developed over time, through these various descendants. The location that they were in also had an effect on the Ivrit language because there were a number of other languages in the region that were similar to it, even though there were marked differences, because this is one of the meanings behind Ivrit, that Ivrit, being from Ever, means that this language was on one side, if you will, and all the other languages were on the other side. So when we start looking at this development, it's also known that Ivrit is considered to be what's called an Afro-Asiatic language, a Semitic language, basically meaning that it has a number of similarities to various Middle Eastern languages, Asian languages, as well as various African languages. And there's a connection between them, but at the same time, it's a distinct language in itself. So once again, it's important to note that when we start talking about this actual language, we have to look at the locations that the various people who spoke Ivrit took it, and what different things they brought to other languages by the way of speaking their own language. So in the previous video I did about the national identity, anytime we talk about a national identity for the people of Israel, we also have to remember that the language was also a key factor in it. And that was the Ivrit language being the other point of centrality, because of the fact that a number of documents within the ancient Israeli kingdom were always kept within the Ivrit language. And this, specifically is true of the Torah, that even throughout the ages, Yisraelim and Yehudim have been very meticulous about keeping the language intact, keeping the structure of the language intact. So now what we're looking at is the development of the Ivrit language from ancient times, from the written script, into the more modern times. Now, one of the things that has to be remembered is Ivrit is written from right to left, as well as read from right to left. So looking at this particular page here, we're looking at the first few characters in the alphabet. And going from right to left, the characters are Aleph, Beth or Veth, Gimel, Doleth or Tholeth, He, Waw, and Zayin. So going, from the top down, the first three are the most ancient, if you will, forms of the language, and the last two being the most modern within the last 2,500 years of the language. So this is an important factor when we start talking about the Israeli national language. So concerning how this ancient language may have sounded, or basically is believed to have sounded, there's one particular group of Yisraelim known as the Jews of Yemen, the Yemenite Jews, who are believed to have preserved one of the most ancient forms of the dialects of Ivrit. So what I'm going to present to you now is a biblical rendition from the Jews of Taiman, from the Jews of Yemen, of one of the Torah texts in Ivrit.
وشننتم لبونها وذبرتم بشبتهم بذاهم لختهم بالتالف وشوفهم وماخا وكشرتم لف عليوناخا وهايو لا تطوفت بالعيناخا واخترتم المزوزة بذاخا وشحالاخا.
So a second group of Yisraelim who are believed to have preserved another dialect of ancient Ivrit are known as the Shomronim, or people call them in modern Israel the Samaritan Israelis. This particular group, of course, as I mentioned in one of our previous videos, broke off from one of the main groups of Yisraelim and is believed to preserve the particular dialect of Ivrit from northern Eretz Israel, the northern Israeli borders. So this is their rendition of biblical texts. So an interesting development that took place whenever you had Israeli or Jewish communities that sparked up in locations that existed for a number of years, maybe like let's say several hundred years or so, was the development of local dialects, which basically were a fusion of a local dialect as well as the Ivrit language and some Aramaic, but in many cases it was written in the Ivrit script. So if you look here are a number of examples, some of them, for example, known as Judeo-Arabic. This is an Arabic dialect which has mixed in Hebrew words, Ivrit words with it, and is written in the Ivrit script that I showed you earlier. So when we look through, like, for example, a number of documents that we're looking at now, this particular text is in Ivrit and Aramaic, which is Aramaic, in the Ivrit tongue. We also see here a number of documents that show us that Ivrit was still being used amongst various Jewish communities, no matter where in the world they were. But it was also, like I say, it was evolving over time, so that when the nation of Israel, the nation of Israel, was reformed, that you also had further development of the language because of all the additional dialects that were brought back in. And there are a number of people who still speak these various dialects. So this is a discussion about the national identity of the people of Israel, as well as the national language, which is known as Ivrit.